My favorite chips. Why do I always feel so thirsty after I eat chips? Sodium. So, what is sodium? Well, it's definitely not just something on the nutrition facts label. Sodium is an essential mineral. That means our body can't make it on its own. We need to get it from the food that we eat. And even though our body needs sodium, it's really easy to get too much from the food that we eat. Some foods have naturally occurring sodium, but majority of the sodium that we get from our diet comes from added salt. To find out how much sodium is in the food you eat, check out the nutrition facts label. Don't forget to also pay attention to the serving size and the number of servings in the package, found at the top of the label. Why do our bodies need sodium? Sodium helps maintain water balance, which means it helps keep the right amount of water in our body. It helps maintain a normal blood pressure, and sodium aids in the function of nerve impulses and muscle contractions. Go ahead and make a muscle with your arm and tighten your fist. The sodium in your body is allowing this to happen. So what happens if we have too much sodium? Well, since sodium helps regulate the amount of fluid in our body, particularly in our blood, having too much sodium would raise the amount of water in our blood, raising our blood pressure. Let's look at an example. Think of water flowing through a water hose or like this faucet. When we first turn on the water, the pressure is not that strong. The water flows out gently. If we turn up the water pressure so more water flows out, the water comes out a lot stronger. Now we can imagine that higher water pressure coming out of the faucet as more water in our bloodstream because of too much sodium in our diet. Our heart and blood vessels have to work harder to work with that higher pressure. But if we consume salty foods or high sodium foods only once in a while, our heart and blood vessels don't have to work as hard all the time because we're only sometimes consuming excess sodium. It's important to maintain a normal blood pressure by consuming the recommended amount of sodium in a day to prevent the risk of developing health problems such as cardiovascular disease, congestive heart failure, kidney disease, and stroke. Guidelines recommend that we consume 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. However, the average American diet consists of about 3,400 milligrams per day. That's almost 50% more than the recommendation. And if someone is at risk or is diagnosed with high blood pressure, they will be given recommendations to consume even less, about 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. Let's look at what those recommendations look like using measuring spoons. So, the recommended 2,300 milligrams of sodium looks like 1 teaspoon of salt. The average daily diet of 3,400 milligrams of sodium looks like 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Which ends up being about 50% more than the recommended amount. So, which foods have higher amounts of sodium? Think processed foods like canned soups and chili, frozen foods, boxed macaroni and cheese, instant noodles, and hot dogs, as well as fast food, including the condiments. Let's look at an example. Let's check out the nutrition facts label on this cup of instant noodles. It has 1,160 milligrams of sodium. When you compare it to the daily recommendation of 2,300 milligrams, the sodium in 1 cup of instant noodles provides more than half the daily recommendation of sodium. So how can we cut the amount of sodium in our diet? Well, I have some tips that can help. Enjoy home-prepared foods by cooking for yourself. When you cook your own food, especially from scratch with whole, unprocessed ingredients, you can control the amount of salt that you put in your food. Skip the salt by using herbs and spices like cilantro, ginger, cinnamon, garlic, and chili. Not only will you need less salt, but the herbs and spices, whether fresh or dry, give the food lots more flavor. Snack on fresh fruits and veggies. Look for low sodium varieties of foods. Adjust your taste buds. Fun fact, our taste buds can change their sensitivity to the amount of sodium in our food. That means over time, we can get used to less sodium in our diet. It doesn't happen overnight, so slowly adding less salt to your food and eating lower sodium foods will gradually change your taste bud preferences. The last tip that we'll cover today is an important one. Boost potassium. Consuming lower amounts of sodium throughout your life is protective against developing high blood pressure and other health problems that we mentioned previously. However, consuming enough potassium in our diets is just as important. What is potassium? It is an essential mineral that the American diet lacks or contains too little of. Having both sodium and potassium in the right range is protective against high blood pressure and other health problems later in life. How do we get more potassium in our diet? Simple. Eat more fruits and vegetables. They are loaded with potassium, not to mention being packed with other nutrients our bodies need. Thanks so much for listening to this lesson. And now you can test your sodium skills and knowledge with the interactive activities that go along with this lesson.